Ever been taken for granted by family? Watch how I turned the tables on my in-laws after they demanded I cook for 50 and called me ungrateful. It started with a phone call on a Tuesday morning. Margaret Chang, my mother-in-law, didn't bother with pleasantries. "Sarah, we need you to handle the food for Uncle Robert's retirement party. 50 people, this Saturday. Nothing fancy, just your usual spread." She said it like she was asking me to pick up dry cleaning, not cater an entire event with 4 days' notice. I was still in my pajamas, coffee halfway to my lips, when she dropped this bomb. "Margaret, that's a huge ask. Saturday is in 4 days, and 50 people means." "Oh, don't be dramatic. You love cooking. Besides, it's family." She cut me off with that tone she used whenever she wanted to shut down conversation. "David said you'd be thrilled to help." David. My husband of 3 years, who apparently volunteered my services without asking. I found him in the shower, humming like he didn't have a care in the world. When I told him what his mother had just requested, he shrugged. "She's right, you do love cooking. And it's just family. Just family. 50 people. 4 days. No budget discussion, no offer to help with shopping or prep, no acknowledgement that I had a full-time job as a graphic designer with deadlines of my own." I stared at him through the glass shower door, water running down his face, and something cold settled in my chest. "Did you volunteer me for this without asking? I mentioned you might be able to help." Mom took it from there. He said it like that made it better, like being volunteered was somehow different from being voluntold. That's when I should have said no. Should have called Margaret back and explained that catering for 50 people requires planning, preparation, and frankly, payment. But I didn't. I was still trying to be the good daughter-in-law, still trying to prove I belonged in the Chin family despite being the outsider who'd married their precious only son. So I said yes. I rearranged my work schedule, pushed 3 client deadlines, and spent Wednesday mapping out a menu that would feed 50 people without breaking our budget. Margaret had been vague about reimbursement, just waved her hand and said we'll figure it out later when I brought it up. Thursday morning I hit every grocery store within a 10-mile radius. Costco for the bulk items, Whole Foods for the specialty ingredients, 3 different Asian markets for the specific sauces Margaret had mentioned Uncle Robert loves. By the time I got home, my car looked like I was prepping for the apocalypse. Receipt total, $847. David found me in the kitchen at 11 p.m., surrounded by prep containers and ingredient lists. "Wow, this looks intense." 50 people is intense, I said, not looking up from the pile of vegetables I was washing. "Your mom wants appetizers, 2 mains, 3 sides, and dessert. That's basically a wedding reception." He grabbed a beer from the fridge. "You've got this. You're amazing at this stuff." Amazing at this stuff. Not, "Thank you for doing this huge favor." Not, "I'm sorry my mother sprung this on you." Just casual confidence that I'd handle it because that's what I did. I handled things. Friday was a blur of cooking, cooling, storing, and more cooking. I took the day off work, which meant I'd be working through the weekend to catch up. By midnight, my kitchen looked like a restaurant prep area. Trays of spring rolls, 2 whole roasted ducks, honey-glazed pork belly, mapo tofu, fried rice for an army, Chinese broccoli, and homemade dumplings that had taken me 3 hours to fold. Saturday morning, Margaret called while I was loading the car. "Just wanted to confirm you're bringing serving utensils and plates too. We don't have enough for 50 people." Serving utensils and plates. She'd failed to mention this minor detail earlier. I drove to 3 different stores before finding enough disposable plates and utensils that didn't look completely cheap. Another $73. The party was at Margaret and Harold's house, and when I arrived with my car packed like a catering truck, the first thing Margaret said was, "Oh good, you made it." We were starting to worry. Starting to worry. Like I might flake on the event I'd spent 4 days preparing for. David and his cousin Michael helped me carry everything in, but that's where their assistance ended. While I set up the entire buffet, arranged the serving dishes, and made sure everything was properly heated and presented, the Chin family stood around the living room with drinks, talking about Uncle Robert's 40-year career at the insurance company. Nobody offered to help plate anything. Nobody asked if I needed assistance. They just waited, drinking wine and socializing, while I turned their kitchen into a restaurant service area. The food was a hit. I watched from the kitchen as guests loaded their plates, went back for seconds, complimented the flavors and presentation. Uncle Robert himself found me washing dishes and said, "Sarah, this is incredible. You've outdone yourself. Margaret's so lucky to have someone who can cook like this in the family." That felt good. That felt like validation for the sleepless nights and sore feet and grocery bills I was starting to worry about. Then came the moment that changed everything. I was in the kitchen refilling the spring roll tray when I heard Margaret's voice from the dining room. She was talking to her sister Linda, voices lowered but not low enough. Well, she certainly went all out. Though I have to say, she doesn't seem very grateful for the opportunity. My hands froze on the serving tongs. Grateful? Linda's voice. We're giving her a chance to contribute to the family, to be part of something bigger than herself. But she's been so focused on the work part, she's missing the privilege part. Linda made a small sound, maybe agreement, maybe just politeness. Margaret continued, "I mean, when I was her age, I would have been thrilled to cook for Harold's family. It's an honor, really. But she keeps mentioning the cost and the time like it's some kind of burden. The privilege part. The honor of spending 4 days and nearly $1,000 cooking for people who wouldn't lift a finger to help me serve it." I stood there holding the serving tongs, listening to my mother-in-law explain to her sister how ungrateful I was for the opportunity to cater their family event for free, and something inside me just shifted. I didn't make a scene. I didn't march into the dining room and confront her. I quietly finished refilling the trays, smiled at the guests who complimented the food, and helped clean up afterward like the good daughter-in-law I was supposed to be. David found me loading the dishwasher. "Mom's over the moon about the food. Uncle Robert said it was restaurant quality." "That's nice," I said, not looking at him. "She wants to know if you'd be willing to do Christmas dinner too. The whole extended family will be there, probably 60 people." I turned around and looked at my husband. Really looked at him. He was smiling, proud of his wife's cooking skills, completely oblivious to what I'd just overheard or what he was asking of me. "Did she mention paying me for today?" His smile faltered slightly. "Well, it's family. We don't usually." "David, I spent $847 on groceries. I took a day off work. I've been cooking for 3 days straight." "I know, and it was amazing. Everyone's talking about how talented you are." Talented. Not generous. Not helpful. Talented, like I was performing for their entertainment. "What about Christmas dinner?" He shrugged. "We can talk about it. But you know how Mom feels about." "About what?" "About making family events feel transactional." Transactional. Like asking to be reimbursed for nearly $1,000 in groceries was somehow inappropriate. That night, while David watched TV and decompressed from his exhausting day of socializing, I sat in our home office and did some math. The groceries, the lost workday, the supplies I'd had to buy. $847 plus $73 plus $280 in lost income. $1,200 total. But it wasn't really about the money. It was about Margaret's words. She doesn't seem very grateful for the opportunity. The opportunity to be their unpaid caterer. The privilege of exhausting myself for their benefit. The honor of being useful while remaining invisible. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept thinking about the way Margaret had said grateful, like I owed them something for the chance to serve him. Sunday morning, David mentioned Christmas dinner again. Mom's already started planning the menu. She's thinking traditional Chinese dishes, maybe some Western sides too. She said you'd probably want to start planning early since it's such a big group. She'd said I'd probably want to start planning early. Like this was my idea. Like I was excited about the prospect of cooking for 60 people 2 days after Christmas. David, did you hear what your mother said about me yesterday? What do you mean? I told him. Every word. About the opportunity and the privilege and the lack of gratitude. He was quiet for a moment, then said, she probably didn't mean it the way it sounded. Probably didn't mean it. That was his response. Not outrage on my behalf, not an apology for his mother's words, just a suggestion that I'd misunderstood. She wants me to cook for 60 people at Christmas. You don't have to if you don't want to. But we both knew that wasn't true. In the Chang family, saying no to Margaret wasn't really an option. There would be consequences. Subtle ones, but consequences nonetheless. That's when I started planning. I didn't tell David. I didn't announce my intentions or make dramatic proclamations. I just quietly started making arrangements. First, I called Sacred Heart Catering, the company that had catered our wedding. I explained the situation and asked for a quote for Christmas dinner for 60 people, traditional Chinese menu with Western sides. The quote came back at $4,200, not including service fees. Then I researched what professional caterers charge per person for events of this size. The average was $70 to $85 per person for the level of food and service I'd provided at Uncle Robert's party. I'd given them $4,200 worth of catering for free. And Margaret thought I wasn't grateful enough for the opportunity. The plan was simple. I would agree to cater Christmas dinner. I would plan the most elaborate, expensive menu Margaret had ever imagined. I would get everything organized, confirm all the details, and then, at the last possible moment, I would present them with my bill. $4,200. The professional rate for what they were asking. If they wanted to treat me like a hired caterer instead of family, I'd be happy to oblige. The first step was agreeing to do Christmas dinner with enthusiasm. When Margaret called to discuss the menu, I was all in. I've been thinking about this, I told her, and I want to make it really special. Uncle Robert's party was just a warm-up. I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. Oh, wonderful. I knew you'd be excited about this. Excited? Sure. We planned a menu that would make a high-end restaurant jealous. Peking duck, whole steamed fish, lobster with ginger and scallions, beef with broccoli, kung pao chicken, ma pa tofu, vegetarian spring rolls, pork dumplings, fried rice, lo mein, Chinese broccoli, honey-glazed carrots, and homemade desserts. This sounds expensive, Margaret said when I read her the final list. Well, you get what you pay for, I replied. This is restaurant-quality food for 60 people. She agreed to everything. Every dish, every ingredient, every expensive protein. I sent her the shopping list a week before Christmas, and she approved it without question. Then I went shopping. But not alone. I hired Sacred Heart Catering to do the actual cooking and service. They would prepare everything to my specifications, deliver it to Margaret's house, and serve it with full professional presentation. The total bill, $4,200, exactly what I'd calculated. But I still bought all the groceries. Every single item on the list Margaret had approved. $1,100 worth of ingredients that would never be used. On Christmas Eve, I delivered the groceries to Margaret's house. She was thrilled to see the quality of everything I'd bought. Sarah, this is incredible. You've really outdone yourself this time. I smiled. I wanted it to be perfect. Christmas morning, David and I arrived at his parents' house at 10 a.m., 2 hours before the guests were scheduled to arrive. Margaret was in the kitchen, surrounded by the ingredients I'd delivered, looking slightly overwhelmed. "I thought you'd be here earlier to start cooking," she said. I set my purse down on the counter and pulled out a manila envelope. "Actually, Margaret, I have something for you." She opened the envelope and pulled out an invoice. Itemized, professional, detailed. Sacred Heart Catering would be arriving in 30 minutes to set up and serve Christmas dinner for 60 people. Total cost, $4,200. The color drained from her face. "What is this?" "It's the bill for Christmas dinner. Professional catering rate for 60 people, just like you requested." "But, your family. You said you'd cook." "I said I'd handle the food. And I have. Sacred Heart Catering will provide restaurant-quality service for your guests." David was reading over her shoulder. "Sarah, what are you doing?" "I'm being professional. Your mother made it clear that I should be grateful for the opportunity to cater family events. So I decided to treat this like the professional opportunity it is." Margaret was scanning the invoice, her hands shaking slightly. "We can't afford this." "Then perhaps you should have discussed payment before asking me to cater for 60 people." That's when Harold walked into the kitchen. Margaret handed him the invoice without a word. He read it twice, then looked at me. "This is a joke, right?" "No, Harold. This is the standard rate for what you've been asking me to provide for free." David was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. "Sarah, this is crazy. It's Christmas. It's also business, apparently. Your mother explained to Linda that I should be grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the family. So I'm treating it like the business opportunity she described." The kitchen fell silent except for the sound of Margaret's breathing, which had gotten noticeably heavier. "When does the catering company arrive?" Harold asked. I checked my watch. 20 minutes. "And if we don't pay?" "Then they don't serve. And you'll have a house full of hungry guests in 2 hours with no food prepared." Margaret sat down heavily in one of the kitchen chairs. "You planned this." "I planned to give you exactly what you asked for. Professional catering service for your family event." David was pacing now. "This is insane. You can't just spring this on us." "I can't. Your mother sprung Uncle Robert's party on me with 4 days' notice. She volunteered my services without asking and then criticized me for not being grateful enough for the opportunity. She didn't mean. She meant every word. I heard her, David. She told Linda I was focused on the work part and missing the privilege part." Margaret looked up at me. "I never said. You said I wasn't grateful enough for the opportunity to cook for your family. You said it was an honor and a privilege. So I decided to honor that by treating it professionally." The doorbell rang. Sacred Heart Catering, right on time. Harold looked at the invoice again. "We don't have $4,200. Then I suggest you figure something out quickly. Your guests arrive in 90 minutes. I walked to the door and let the catering team in. They were professional, efficient, and completely prepared. Within minutes, they were transforming Margaret's kitchen into a service area. The Chang family stood in the corner, watching strangers prepare their Christmas dinner, holding an invoice they couldn't afford. David grabbed my arm. "Sarah, stop this. This isn't you. This is exactly me. This is me being treated like the professional service provider your family apparently thinks I am." Margaret was crying now, quietly, but crying. "The guests will be here soon. Then you'd better make a decision." Harold pulled out his phone and made a call. I couldn't hear who he was talking to, but I could guess. After a few minutes, he hung up. "My brother's going to wire the money. It'll be here in an hour." I nodded to the catering manager. "You can proceed with setup." The next hour was surreal. The catering team worked with military precision, transforming Margaret's dining room into an elegant presentation space. The food was identical to what I'd planned, but it looked like something from a high-end restaurant. Margaret and Harold stood in their own kitchen, watching strangers handle their Christmas dinner, writing a check for more money than they'd ever spent on a single meal. David wasn't speaking to me. He stood in the corner, arms crossed, looking like a child whose favorite toy had been taken away. The guests started arriving at noon. They had no idea what had happened. They saw beautiful presentation, professional service, and food that exceeded their expectations. They complimented Margaret on the fantastic catering and asked where she'd found such excellent service. Margaret smiled and accepted the compliments, but I could see the strain around her eyes. After the meal, as the catering team was cleaning up, Margaret approached me. "I hope you're satisfied." "I'm professionally satisfied, yes. Sacred Heart did excellent work." "You've made your point." "Have I? What point is that?" She was quiet for a moment. "That we took advantage of you." "Did you?" Another pause. "Yes." That was the first honest thing she'd said to me in 3 years. "The thing is, Margaret, I would have been happy to cook for your family. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy contributing. But I don't enjoy being taken for granted and then criticized for not being grateful enough for the privilege of being used." She nodded slowly. "Linda and I were talking about something else entirely." "You misunderstood." "I heard every word. You said I was focused on the work part and missing the privilege part. You said I should be grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the family. I was wrong. 2 words. Simple, direct, honest." "Yes, you were." Harold joined us. "The food was excellent. Professional quality." "Thank you. How much do you usually spend when you cook for us?" I thought about Uncle Robert's party. $800 to $1,000, depending on the menu. He nodded. "And you've never asked us to reimburse you?" "No. Because you thought we were family." "I thought I was family." Margaret wiped her eyes. "You are family. Then treat me like family. That means respect, consideration, and appreciation. Not criticism for not being grateful enough to serve you." The catering team finished loading their equipment. Their manager handed me a copy of the receipt. "Everything went perfectly, Mrs. Chang. Thank you for choosing Sacred Heart." After they left, the house felt strangely quiet. Most of the guests had gone home, taking containers of leftovers that the catering team had carefully packaged. David finally approached me. "Are we okay?" "That depends. Do you understand why I did this?" He was quiet for a long time. "You felt used." "I felt invisible. I felt like hired help who wasn't even getting paid." "I'm sorry." 2 more words. Simple, direct, honest. "Your mother asked me to cook for Christmas. I said I'd handle the food. I handled it. By hiring a catering company and presenting us with a $4,200 bill. By showing you what professional service actually costs. What I've been giving you for free." He sat down across from me. "What happens now? Now you decide if you want a wife or a caterer." "Because I'm done being both." That was 3 months ago. The Chang family still includes me in gatherings, but they don't ask me to cook for them anymore. When they want to host large events, they hire actual caterers or make it potluck. Margaret and I have found a new equilibrium. She treats me with respect, I treat her with respect, and nobody mentions the Christmas catering incident, as David has started calling it. Last week, Margaret called to invite me to Harold's birthday party. "We're having it catered," she said quickly. "Sacred Heart, actually. They did such a good job at Christmas." I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. "That sounds lovely." "Sarah?" "Yes?" "Thank you. For the lesson." "You're welcome." Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone. Sometimes it's showing them exactly what they've been taking for granted, and letting them decide what that's worth to them. The Chang family decided I was worth $4,200. I decided that was a good start.
Loved this story of karma striking back? Subscribe to Family Stories Daily for more, and share your own family betrayal in the comments.